From Buffalo Wild Wings by the Birdcage in Sioux Falls, welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are Dakota Wesleyan head men's basketball coach Matt Wilber, South Dakota Golf Association Executive Director Wade Mary, head football coach at Dakota State Josh Anderson, and our host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Nieman.
Hello, welcome to Benchwarmers. We are at Buffalo Wild Wings, just south of the Birdcage in Sioux Falls. Welcome in another brilliant, handsome panel we have assembled this week. And we'll talk a little bit of DW hoops down there with Matt, the state of golf in South Dakota, with Wade Mary from the South Dakota Golf Association. Some Dakota State football on the rise under head coach Josh Anderson. We'll get to all that, but a couple of national things up here first. Pittsburgh wins the Stanley Cup. Matt Cullen, a Moorhead, Minnesota kid. You've probably seen him on Sanford TV ads for Sanford Orthopedics, but Pittsburgh wins the Stanley Cup. Game 5 of the NBA Finals, as we sit here, is tonight on Monday night, and I think it's foregone that Golden State is going to win the championship. But talk about this. Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 5, plays for Golden State, their big guy. You've seen him kick people where they shouldn't be kicked, and he's been suspended. Have you had, Matt, guys on your team that are really great players but are just kind of knuckleheads like that? Is it worth having these guys on your team?
Well, you know, the guys I watch are the guys around him as this stuff's going on, and you just don't see a big reaction or the eye rolling from the other guys on his team. So it looks sometimes like they're okay with it. He's kind of their guy that he's their dirt guy, their glue guy, the guy that's gonna, you know, I'm not endorsing what he does and what he's done to some of these other players, but in that game, he's their physical guy. And yeah, you get those guys, and you know, he's got suspended, but he gets a lot done for that basketball team, where Steph Curry and Klay Thompson can be their finesse guys, and they got him out there kind of, you know, and that's so termed the enforcer, right? And so you take the good with the bad with some of it, because he gets a lot done for him. Probably
more good than bad, but you've seen this on the football field too.
Yeah.
There's guys that are borderline that they're talented, but they get you in trouble.
Usually it's the guys that get away with that stuff is in the trenches with the offensive line and defensive line, whereas when you're out in the open and you do some of that flamboyant stuff, you can't really get away with it. There's refs all over the place, so you can get sneaky and get really good at when and where and why and how you do it.
Offensive linemen are very good at that.
Yeah.
You think they're these big affable guys, but they're nasty.
Oh yeah, they do some tricks sometimes to try and get a flag thrown on an opponent, and it works, but when it doesn't and goes against you, it's not always a good thing.
All right, and Golden State, you're in agreement on this. They're probably going to win. They're up 3-1. But and just quickly, are you a Steph Curry guy, or are you a LeBron James guy?
Well, I think Steph Curry is just too talented. Wherever he puts it up, it can go in. It's amazing. I think the only way to beat Golden State is if they get cold.
they did in one game.
Yeah,
right?
That's about it.
Wade?
Yeah, I'm a Steph Curry guy. I enjoy watching him play ball. He's fun to watch. I love it that as soon as he crosses midcourt, he's in range, and I love that about him.
Yeah.
You had a kid named Trey Berg that played for you this past season that was kind of like that.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to compare anybody to Steph Curry. You know, maybe of the NAIA, right? You know, but Trey was built that way, where he just had absolutely no fear, undersized. You know, not big, not strong, but just his mental toughness, and that's kind of been Steph Curry's MO the whole way. Is like, is he big enough? Is he strong enough to get it done? And it's just been unbelievable to watch how talented that guy is. But I'm not an anti-LeBron guy at all, because I mean, that guy is built a different way than anybody. And you know, the tough thing about the NBA right now is there's 100 cameras catching every reaction, everything they do, and everybody gets criticized when everybody reacts to everything all the time. And so you get a lot of judgmental things going on just by how a guy reacts and how he's doing that. But you're talking about the two best players in the world probably playing against each other, and that's where they're at right now. So it's been fun to watch.
Are we in an era of the shooters right now in the NBA, maybe in college, or just because we're noticing it because of Curry?
I would say, you know, you just see the game has evolved that way. You know, there is just so much more of an emphasis being put on the three-point shot. Guys are getting better at it all the time. So you're, as a coach or as a player, you're crazy to not have it in your game. Yeah. A big thing you talk about are the EFG, the efficiency field goal percentage, which takes into factor the three-point shot. You gotta look at that, and it's a big part of it.
All right, NBA winding down. The other big event nationally this week is the U.S. Open in golf, Wade, and who are you taking? Who would you advise us to take to win this?
You know, the obvious candidates are Jordan Spieth, our defending champion, Jason Day, who's the best player in the world right now. I'm a Justin Rose guy.
Really?
You know, Justin Rose won at Marion 3 years ago. You know, what's going to be interesting about the U.S. Open, they're going to Oakmont this year. You know, last year at Chambers Bay, we saw that golf course where, unlike any U.S. Open golf course that we've seen, where the green complexes, you know, we saw a lot of ball movement and whatnot. Well, Oakmont is this good old standard golf course of what we think a U.S. Open is. And so, you know, if somebody shoots even par, 1 over, 2 over, they're probably going to win it. And so it's the grinder, and you know, Justin Rose is the guy that, you know, I would pick to win.
Dustin Johnson, you would pick to finish.
Dustin
second.
Johnson will be in the top 2 or 3. Dustin Johnson is a factor. I think he's the most talented guy on tour, but something happens early on Sundays where he gets himself in trouble and kind of shoots himself out of it.
And that's the beauty of the U.S. Open too, is you're going to see maybe even par or 1 or 2 under.
This is one of those tournaments where when you make a par, you're going to gain ground.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not going to be a shootout. It's not going to be one of these, you know, 10, 11, 12, 14 under par deals. So it's who's mentally tough, who's patient.
All right. When we come back, much more with Wade on the state of golf in South Dakota. We'll talk with Matt about, is he going to win a national championship at Dakota Wesleyan one of these days? And Josh Anderson's got the Dakota State football program on the rise. We'll talk about that when we come back on Benchwarmers.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Wade Mary is the executive director of the South Dakota Golf Association. Have been for 12 years now?
This is my 12th year.
All right. Just finished up the 2-man championship over the weekend. What's going on in the SDGA right now?
Right now, we're in the heart of our junior tour schedule. We've got 21 events that we run statewide. You know, we're about 3 a week. Somewhere we got about 400 kids that participate there. First tee programming has been going on for a couple of weeks. We've got more than 18,000 kids. Last year were involved in some type of first tee programming, either in the summer program in our 7 sites. We also are in more than 40 elementary schools.
18,000 kids.
18,000 kids are impacted by first tee programming.
And this is to introduce kids to the game of golf, basically.
We've got golf clubs in kids' hands. And we introduced them to the game. They're actually swinging clubs, hitting balls. But then, you know, the whole first tee concept is, you know, we talk about life lessons that they learn. We talk about healthy habits that they learn from the game of golf. So it's not just swinging a club. It's other things that you can learn from playing golf.
All right. Husband-wife championship.
Husband-wife championship is the last weekend of June. We're at Dakota Dunes Country Club. I'm excited about that. It's been several years since we've had a tournament there. You know, then we get into our match play and our senior and our amateur championship through the months of July and August.
And just quickly, remember 2 or 3 years ago, there was doom and gloom about the game of golf. Nationwide, nobody was going to keep playing golf. The numbers were going down drastically. What has happened in South Dakota?
You know, South Dakota's kind of avoided that whole thing. You know, nationwide, you know, more golf courses are closing every year than are opening. You know, they overbuilt golf courses many years ago. South Dakota, we've escaped that. All our golf courses, there's 129 of them in South Dakota. We're all open. You know, our membership numbers have remained steady. You know, our participation numbers in our championships are steady, or maybe a slight increase. So, for whatever reason, South Dakota seems to have avoided that downturn that we saw on both coasts.
It's like a lot of things. Nationally, it's a mess, and in certain places in South Dakota, we're just fine.
Well, absolutely. You know, something hits on one coast, it skips us, and then it goes on the other coast. But here, you know, I think we've got one of the great things going.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. kids should play golf. There's a lot of golf scholarships in college, but Matt Wilber at Dakota Wesleyan University, the men's basketball coach there, back-to-back national tournaments. You guys going to win one of these years, or what's going on in the program there?
I'll tell you right now, over the last 2 years, we've graduated 100 points in the program with about 7 players. So we're going to be, we're going to look a little different than we have the past couple of years. So, but it's been an exciting time over there. You know, we've had a ton of fan support, a lot of, you know, the Corn Crib's been rocking, and it's been a great brand of basketball. You know, you talk about playing the way, you know, you kind of mimic what goes on in the NBA, and we fire up a lot of threes. We try to pass the ball. You know, we've been one of the better teams in the nation with assists and in that realm, but we've had really good players to be able to play that way, and that's kind of how it works. You get good players, you can do that. So, yeah, it's been fun, and I wouldn't say rebuilding, but we got a few new kids coming in, so we're going to look a little different.
All right, yeah. Trey Bird, kid from Tri-Valley, Jade Miller, Mitchell kid, Terrell Newton, all those guys have done.
Yep, you know, that's 50 points from last year's team are graduating. First team All-American. All 3 of them were all conference guys at some level, and we got one. You know, we've got one starter coming back, kind of 2 starters coming back. Tate Martin was an honorable mention All-American point guard. Led the country in assists per game, and he's a dynamic little guard. And so, you know, we're going to have to rely on some younger kids.
Ty Hoagland from your hometown of Del Rapids coming in.
Yep, Ty Hoagland. You know, he's been gobbling up all the awards in South Dakota for the year he had, and excited to be able to get him. You know, I played for his dad in Del Rapids, and we're both from the same hometown, and so, you know, dynamic player. I don't like to put a lot on recruits and saying, hey, this is going to happen or what's not going to happen, but he's going to have a lot of opportunities for us, I think, and he's going to be a fun one to watch.
And just quickly we see all these kids coming in every year to your program at Dakota Wesleyan, and that's for a good reason. You're not limited by roster.
We're at a pretty unique place in the NEIA and with our rosters. You know, we have a JV team, and we can house a lot of kids in our program, and we'll take. You know, people have a different outlook on what that looks like, but you know, and certain places, you know, at South Dakota State, they're limited by how many roster spots they can even have, and we're not. So. You know, we'll get a number of kids that are, you know, going back and forth, and do they want to keep playing a sport? Do they want to keep playing basketball? Well, we've got an opportunity for kids to be a part of that, and we take a lot of pride in our culture and being able to give kids that opportunity. So our roster is always going to be a little bit on the larger side, very South Dakota heavy. You know, we get a lot of our kids, 80 to 90% of our kids are South Dakota kids, so that makes it fun for me being a homegrown guy too. So.
And that leads into the football program at Dakota State. Opportunity for a lot of kids around here to keep playing football, right?
Yeah, there really is. You know, obviously the South Dakota State and USD have done really well, and it's easy to see the level of play, I think, in high schools has gone up just because we've got 2 Division I programs right here in our state, and that's exciting. Obviously, all the camps and all the things that Sanford's done in Sioux Falls where kids can come and do so much more dynamic workouts and build their bodies and get some better experience and better coaching just in the summers as well as in going back and up in their game. It's been a lot of fun seeing the game progress the last 7-8 years and in South Dakota. And we've had some good luck, but unfortunately, so have all the Division II schools. You know, Augustana and Sioux Falls have done really well, and they've gone to the national playoffs this year too. So it's hard. You got South Dakota State, USD Division I, and then USF and Augie right there. And Dakota Wesleyan is doing well, and presentation's coming along, and we're all right here on the east side of South Dakota. And of course, the Iowa schools and Minnesota schools and Nebraska schools want to recruit our kids too. They're good enough to go play at places, and so, you know, we start right in Madison and work our way out, but we don't get them all.
And you flipped a switch a little bit in the last 2 years, 6-5 the last 2 years.
Yep.
What has changed in that time, and how do you keep getting that win total improved every year?
Well, we, quite frankly, just offered money that we didn't have to go get the athletes we needed to win. Athletes win games. I've got a really good coaching staff. Always felt good about our facilities. And, you know, we've had some good athletes, but we just didn't have a bunch of them. And so we just went out and offered a lot more money. And it was great because our administration backed us up and went out and fundraised and got the money for us, and has put together some great fundraising opportunities, and we've been able to raise a lot more money. And so really it's just come down to flat out money, not being able to miss on athletes when, you know, private schools and Division II schools offer more money and we can't match that, whereas now we can on certain athletes. And so, you know, and Coach was talking about culture, and when I got to DSU, I mean, there was just virtually none. getting our university to buy into the program, our athletics department to buy into football, the town to buy into football. There was just a lot of animosity towards the football program, so changing that has happened, and now we're starting to see more involvement.
Did you bring a little, you're a North Dakota State guy, played at North Dakota State. Did you bring a little bit of that Bison culture?
Absolutely. Wherever I've gone, the 2 high schools I was head coach of in here, and really what I brought was just the persistence. You know, there's a saying going around now, you either win or you learn. Honestly, that's been going on at NDSU since the early 60s. That kind of attitude, where even if you get beat, you feel like you've never lost. And so it's just that edge and that arrogance or confidence or whatever you want to call it. That's what I've been bringing and just trying to promote and push along to these kids, because you can take a mediocre kid and make him so much better if you just believe in him and help him believe in themselves. There's so much talent around here that just goes unrecognized and bypassed, but getting a kid in the right spot, in the right situation, and then just building them up, they can do some great things for you.
All right. And there's another North Dakota State guy coming into the league at Jamestown, right? Josh Cattell.
Yep.
Is going to take over as the head coach at Jamestown.
Yeah, Josh was the offensive coordinator at Jamestown and then went to be a quality control coach for the Bison. And obviously they had another good year, so he got to be around, you know, some culture there, and he's bringing that back to Jamestown. And we'll see how things go. He's got some work to do, you know, building up, but he brought some North Dakota State players in with him, and
all right.
So who knows? They might end up going to a conference down south, and maybe we won't have to deal with them.
Will the Bison win another FCS national championship?
I know they've got a great opportunity.
Well said. Yeah, probably will. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about youth sports. These guys all have young kids that are going through youth programs right now. Are we doing it right? Is there too much competition? Not enough competition? Talk about that when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers, and this is a huge subject, obviously, but we're going to hit it quick on kids in sports, in youth sports. You guys have 10-year-olds. Matt and Josh here have 10-year-olds. Wade, our kids are older, but we've gone through this. Does it come down to this, Matt? Parents need to let kids play. As a 10-year-old kid, less games, more practice, just let them play right now.
Well, it's tough because, you know, as a parent, you got to organize certain stuff to get them involved in it. True. There's things you got to be around, and there's things you got to be at all the time with your kids. But as they start getting older and going through youth sports, I'm a big fan of kids practicing a lot more than they play, and that's just not how it is right now. Instead of practice time, we're signing up for more tournaments. We're playing way more games. Kids are, at this point in our culture, are way more coached, over-officiated, over-judged, have more adults walking around, telling them what to do and how to do it. And I'm a big, what do we want to get out of sports? We want our kids to own it. We want them to be leaders. We want to be competitive. Well, you got to let them do that. So they got to fail. You got to let them go a little bit with that, and that's their time. And I feel pretty strongly about that. And I say a lot of this hopefully to not be a hypocrite as my kids keep going through it and not be that dad. So
you're very passionate about this. I know whether it's golf or football, you need individual instruction time more than games as a kid, right? Is there an age or a point where it should get more serious?
Well, I always thought like varsity sports maybe in high school, where when it really comes down to, winning is probably a priority, but not until you're on the varsity, even junior high, junior varsity. You want to try and play your best kids, keep them involved, and the whole point is to try and win with what you have. But a lot of it depends on your parents and your coaches. How much pressure and expectation do you put on them? Because if you're overbearing and you really overload it, that's when you're going to start to lose the kids.
Is it a small minority of parents though that ruin things?
Yeah, we see it on our junior tour. Let the kid hit a shot. If he doesn't hit good, that's fine. Just let kids be kids. That's the only thing I can really say. Let them have their time.
All right, and I know you could go for an hour on
I know.
This,
my big thing is, let's not ruin it for them before it gets important. Like we said that when I was running a Tibbs basketball program, I'd say this to all of our workers: hey, don't screw it up. You got to have a lot of fun, keep them moving in the right direction.
All right, I know you guys are all very good at practicing what you preach, so
right on.
Let's keep up the good work with your kids, and we could go forever on that, but got to go here. When we come back, we'll go into the crowd here at Buffalo Wild Wings for our Winging It question of the week.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back. Time for our Winging It question of the week. Here is Carla Metz.
Thanks, Tom. We have Connor Knutson, who is going to be a sophomore at Roosevelt this next year, and the Twins have kind of struggled this season, so he has got a question about the Twins.
Do you think the Twins have to go a different direction with their manager?
All right, back to you, Tom.
All right, you're a Cubs fan. You're out of the picture for this. You're abstaining as well. Connor wants to know, Matt, should the Twins get rid of Paul Molitor? Will that help turn things around?
I should be allowed to phone a friend on this one. My wife's the big Twin fan in the house. It's a little insufferable at times, but you know, with coaching, man, you're talking to a coach, so you're talking about firing coaches. That gets a little sensitive here. I'm a big players have to make plays type of guy, and you know they came in with so many expectations, and you just got people underperforming. Maybe the voice. It's hard to say. I know they're not playing very well.
So that's a no from Matt Wilber. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't think Molly's the problem there. But when we come back, our poll question this week: who is Brock Lesnar? And he fights this month in UFC, or next month in UFC. Do people know who he is?
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Our poll question this week: who is Brock Lesnar? He's a South Dakota guy. He's from Webster, South Dakota. Huge in professional wrestling. Obviously, he's coming back to UFC on July 9th to fight. And I was just curious if people remembered or knew who he was, and 9 out of 10 do. According to our poll, one person did think he was NFL quarterback, Brock Osweiler. But just to show of hands, will you guys watch a UFC fight if Brock Lesnar is in it?
I'll watch if somebody's paying for it.
Maybe if a buddy's got it on.
Yeah, if a buddy wants to host, I'm there.
All right. Thanks to these guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week in Moorhead, Minnesota on Benchwarmers.